So I'm Vivek Singh and I'm here to take the budget session which was presented yesterday by your Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. So this is going to be a 1-hour class where I will be discussing the important features of budget considering its relevance for the UPSC. Now before I start this budget session, see, every budget is presented in a particular context, in a particular background. So the budget which was presented yesterday on 1st Feb 2025, this has also been presented in a particular context, because you will see there are various announcements in every budget, certain expenditure related announcements, tax related announcements, capex related announcements are done. But why a particular budget focuses on certain things, that must be understood in certain background, in certain perspective. So before we understand this budget session, before we take this budget session, you should have a brief overview of the situation. You should have a brief overview that what is the present situation of the economy. Because if you understand that situation, then only you will be able to appreciate that why these things have been presented or why these steps have been taken in the budget. So first thing is that let us understand that what was the background, in which background this budget has been presented. So present situation of economy. So post COVID, our economy was growing at a good growth rate, real growth rate of 9%, 8%. But and previous year also we grew over 8%. But this year, means financial year 2024-25, the average growth rate in the first half is around 6%. The average growth rate in the first half is around 6%. And the whole year we are targeting about 6.4% growth. The whole year we are targeting 6.4% growth. The first quarter was around 6.5, second quarter it was quite low, 5.4. So average growth in the first half was 6%, and the full year we are approximating it 6.4%. So the biggest challenge which we faced was the second quarter. The growth was quite down, 5.4%. So this is, everyone understands that this is a cyclical slowdown. It's not a structural. Structural slowdown means it's going to be long term. Everyone understands that since last 3-4 years we are growing at above 8%. So this is a slight blip in this. So this budget has tried to address the concerns that why India faced this cyclical slowdown, why this growth in the second quarter was 5.4%, and before that also, if you will see, the consumption in the urban areas was growing slow. There was a pressure on urban consumption. The rural consumption is doing good because of the very good monsoon in 2024, so, and good kharif production. But the urban consumption, the growth is slowing down, and this has resulted in slowdown in overall consumption, and ultimately our growth in the second quarter has declined. That's why I have highlighted that urban consumption is facing challenges while rural demand is rebounding due to global kharif production. So first thing is that growth is slowing down. Now this growth till now, so growth is around 6%, but in this, what has done good? So one is agriculture and the other is services. Manufacturing is facing challenges. So one is urban consumption facing challenges, and the second is manufacturing facing challenges. Why manufacturing is facing challenges? Because of the global headwinds. You must be seeing there are concerns regarding tariffs, there are concerns regarding economic nationalism. Every country is trying to restore the manufacturing activities in their own countries. So that is leading to challenges in manufacturing and export. So manufacturing is a little bit down in the second quarter. Then agriculture and services are up. Urban consumption is slowing down. And in the last 3-4 years of overall 8% growth, our growth has slowed down in the first half. This is the overall context of the economy, and this has also been highlighted in the economic survey. Now in this context, the context is urban consumption slowing down. So in this context, our budget has been presented yesterday. So let us understand about the few highlights of the budget. So first, let's focus on the broader expenditure and receipts framework. So next year 2025-6, our expenditure is going to be around 50.6 lakh crore, above 50 lakh crore. Now this expenditure over 47.2 lakh crore is around 7 to 8% of growth we are seeing. This growth is around 7 to 8%. Now, you must be, if anyone of you have heard about the budget analysis in other channels, you must have heard of that. There is a lot of concerns that in this budget there is less focus on capital expenditure called capex. But I don't think that this is true. This is not true exactly. If you will see here, this growth is around 7%. This growth is around 7%. So our total budgeted, this is central government's budget. So our total budgeted expenditure has increased by 7%. But if you will see, capex has increased by 10%. Revenue expenditure has increased by approx 6%. Revenue expenditure has increased approx, this is 7.5 or 8%. So out of the, if the overall expenditure is growing by 7-8%, or capex is growing by 10%. So capital expenditure has increased more as compared to the overall expenditure of the government of India. So how can you say that government is going to spend less on capex? Yes, there are talks that there is less focus on capex. Why those concerns are there, we'll discuss this separately in detail. Now, receipts, whatever is the expenditure, the receipts should be same, including borrowing. Now, if you see one thing which has not increased in this budget is borrowing. Debt capital receipts, everything has increased, 47.2 to 50.6, total expenditure 37 to 39, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure has also increased, receipts has also increased. The only thing which has not increased is debt capital, which is 15.7 lakh crore and 15.7 lakh crore here it is also same. Why is this so? Because government has said that it is, so debt capital receipts means borrowing. So government is totally focusing on fiscal consolidation. What do you understand by fiscal consolidation? When government tries to reduce debt, when government tries to reduce fiscal deficit, when government tries to reduce wasteful expenditure. So what has happened post-COVID? Government had to borrow a lot. So government borrowed a lot, debt increased, right, to push the economic growth. But now government has said that it is moving to a path of fiscal consolidation. So last year means, so this year 2024-25, the deficit is around 4.8%. But next year government has targeted a deficit, if you can see, government has targeted a deficit of 4.4%. So our deficit has increased because our deficit has reduced in terms of GDP, but you will see that borrowing is same. Since GDP has increased, so deficit has increased. So government is moving towards a path of fiscal consolidation. Now revenue expenditure also 1.9 to 1.5%. So every deficit parameter you will see that government is deliberately planning to decrease it. Now nominal GDP for the next year is expected to be around 10.1%. So this is including inflation. The real growth is expected to be around 6.3 to 6.8% in between this. So this plus 4.5% approx inflation. So this is real plus inflation 4.5% approx. So which will give you a nominal growth of 10%. So next year the GDP is expected to be growing at 10.1%. Now the gross tax revenue again increase, and tax to GDP ratio, very important factor, tax to GDP ratio is going to increase it to 12%. Fine. So all the parameters are increasing. Government has kept the borrowing same. So since government has kept the absolute borrowing same because of fiscal consolidation, so in terms of as a percentage, the borrowing has reduced. Okay. Now moving to the next slide. I was talking about capital expenditure because I am seeing that everywhere in the discussions, people are concerned about that capex growth may slow down. So why is this concern? And why everyone is talking about this capex? So just let me briefly tell you that why is this myth that people are thinking that capex is slowing down. See, listen carefully. Once COVID hit, at that time, our capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP was around 1.5%. Was around 1.5%, approximately 3 lakh crore. We faced slowdown. Now government had to bring the economy out of this slowdown. So government followed an aggressive path of capital expenditure. So why government followed an aggressive path of capital expenditure rather than revenue? Government also gave various welfare schemes, gave money in the hands of people, but government aggressively moved on the path of capital expenditure. So at that time it was 1.5% of GDP, approximately 3 lakh crore. Government aggressively increased the capital expenditure from 1.5% to approx 3% of GDP. So 3 lakh crore increased to around 10 lakh crore this year. 3 to 10 in the last 4 years. Every year it was growing around 30-40%. So heavy capital expenditure growth we have seen. So this year the capital expenditure is approx 10.2 lakh crore, which is around 3.1% of GDP. Now everyone was expecting that this year also it is going to grow by 20-30%. That has not happened. But you must appreciate that it cannot grow 20-30% for a long period of time. Earlier our capital expenditure was less, so for 4-5 years government increased it by 20-30%. But every year it can't grow. We have to spend on revenue expenditure also. So this year the capital expenditure growth has slowed down as compared to the previous year. But in terms of the overall government expenditure, if the government expenditure is increasing by 7-8%, capital expenditure has increased more than 10%. So capital expenditure is still there. Fine. So government had to spend in the last 4-5 years more capital expenditure because capital expenditure has a very high multiplier effect. If 1 rupee government is going to spend on capital expenditure like railways, it increases the GDP by more than 5-6 rupees. So government spent more on capital expenditure because it wanted to give a boost to economy. It wanted to move the economy out of this recession process. That's the reason. And in general also, in the last so many years, our capital expenditure has always been comparatively less as compared to revenue expenditure. So that bar needed to be increased. So government increased the capex from 1.5% to 3% of GDP. Now this as a percentage terms, it cannot grow, keep on increasing. So now it has come to a fair level that we have certain revenue expenditure, we have certain capital expenditure. Each year it may grow normally, but not as compared to what we have seen in the last 4-5. It is not going to happen. This year budget, the budget which was presented last day, there has been a major shift. In the last 5 years, we have seen aggressive capex, but this year government has properly indicated that now for the next few years, there is going to be a shift and capex is going to remain around 3.5% and government is going to increase the demand, because you must understand that what was the context in which this budget was presented? Urban demand was slowing down. Manufacturing is also, growth is less, we will talk about that, but urban demand was slowing down. So government has tried to address that slowdown. How? We will discuss it in the coming slides. So I hope that this capex thing is resolved, that now it will grow normally. And we are not going to see 20-30% increase, but still it is higher than the total government, how the government expenditure is increasing. Now, if you talk about 3.1% of GDP as capex, so next year we have targeted around 11.2 lakh crore, 25-26, which is 3.1% of GDP. But one thing you should understand, that this is the direct capex of Government of India. Government of India gives grants to states, which states again may spend on capital expenditure. So for Government of India it is a grant. For Government of India it is grant, but states spend it to capital expenditure, which becomes a part of effective capital expenditure. So effective capital expenditure is quite higher. Normal capital expenditure is 11.2 lakh crore, but effective capital expenditure is around rupees 15.5 lakh crore. Effective capital expenditure is around 15.5 lakh crore. Just one second. Effective capital expenditure, just give me a moment. I don't want this. This no. Okay, so our effective capital expenditure is going to be 15.5 lakh crore. So from 11.2 lakh crore, the normal expenditure, the real capital expenditure is going to be 15.5 lakh crore. So this is quite good for the next year. So no one should think that government is going slow on capital expenditure. So 15.5 lakh crore as explained. Capex is also done through Acha. As I said that this capital expenditure of 11.2 plus, which is given to grants to states, which becomes 15.5 lakh crore. Now, there are a lot of PSUs which do their capital expenditure. Now, when government of India is saying that they have done 11.2 lakh crore of capital expenditure, this doesn't include central public sector enterprises capital expenditure. The PSUs, see, this is the government of India. So this budget which is here about capex or overall 50.6 lakh crore expenditure is just about government of India. We have PSUs here, let's say ONGC, other PSUs, they spend their own budget, they spend their own capex, which is not part of government of India. So only what is being spent from consolidated fund of India, that is only shown here in the government budget, and it is 11.2 lakh crore. But these PSUs, they earn revenue and then they spend capex. So this is also a huge part, around 4 lakh crore. So CPSCs are also going to spend a lot of capex. So there is no dearth of capex. There is going to be enough capex in the next year. This year government has also focused on consumption, that we will see. But in no way government is going to compromise on the capex. That is the understanding that you should have. Now coming to the next slide. So effective capital expenditure, if you see, this is the revised effective capital expenditure for 24-25 and 25-26. So it is going to increase from 13.2 to 15.5, around more than 15%. So effective capital expenditure is increasing more than 15%, right? So this is the this you should not treat, because this was just planned and it didn't happen. So 12.5 lakh crore 23-24, then 13.2 lakh crore 24-25, and then it is going to increase to 15.5 lakh crore. So it's a good growth of effective capital expenditure. This is a very important slide that you must understand, which I was referring to. So see here, please, you look at this 2014-15. Centre's capex was capital expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure. So capex was 11.8% and revenue. So this should sum to 100. So capital expenditure 11.8%, revenue expenditure 88.2%. Out of the total budget, let's say if the budget is 100 rupees, so government was spending 88.2 on revenue and 11.8 on capital expenditure, which was quite less. So in the whole UPA regime, 2004-2005, this was the situation, that capital expenditure was spent very less. And that's why our economy remained less efficient. That's why our productivity of economy was not increasing. Now, if you see in the 10 years period, in this 10 years period, if you see 24-25, so capital expenditure from, this is all percentage, So capital expenditure is increased from 11%, 11.8 to 22%. Next year, the capital expenditure is going to be 22% of the total government expenditure, and revenue expenditure is going from 88 to 77. So this revenue expenditure has increased, decreased by 10%, and capital expenditure has increased by 10%. Capital expenditure increased from around 12 to 22. This decreased from 88 to 78. But try to understand, this cannot kept on increasing. This cannot increase to 100%. So we at certain level, we have to stop this increase. Stop this increase means percentage term. So now it may be possible for that for the next 4, 5 or 10 years, we may maintain this ratio. 78% revenue expenditure and 22% capital expenditure, because now it has significantly increased and this has decreased. Earlier we used to give a lot of welfare schemes. Now also, of course, in absolute numbers it has increased, but overall balance has reached so 22 lakh crore. So out of the total expenditure, 22% capex and 78% revenue expenditure. Now this is in percentage terms it has reduced. Overall it is increasing every year, absolute numbers, and you will see that this year also revenue expenditure we are going to spend a lot on various schemes. So this was required because if we want to grow fast, if India want to become a developed nation by 2047, then we must spend, our infrastructure must be world class. In the last 10 years, government has increased the level of infrastructure spending. So even if in percentage terms we are going to keep it constant, every year we are going to spend huge amount on road, railway, airport to increase the productivity. Actually, see, infrastructure, spending on infrastructure helps in two ways. In short term, it increases the demand because it is capital intensive. Government has to spend a lot of money. So post COVID, government spend a lot of infrastructure. So money is into the hands of the people and it helped economy move out of recession. In the long term, capex spending in the long term helps in increasing the productivity of the economy. So this expenditure which has increased, you will see in future years that the overall economy is becoming efficient. Overall productivity will increase, right? So there is no compromise on capex. Yes, there has been certain increases on revenue. We will see that. Capex to NMP. There is one very important thing. As I said to you, and I explained this also. See, Government of India collects tax and then spends. Now, Government of India collects this money into CFI. So whatever is shown in the budget, that is from CFI, whatever is collected from the tax. But government is going to do a lot of capex through NMP, National Monetization Pipeline. So what exactly happens in National Monetization Pipeline? Let's say there is a PSU Gas Authority of India Limited, GAIL. Now GAIL has a pipeline. GAIL has a pipeline. Now this pipeline already constructed and it is in operation. Now GAIL will give this pipeline on lease for 30 years. GAIL will get the money one time. That model will give one time money to GAIL, and then GAIL will spend that money into other infrastructure, other pipeline infrastructure. So this way, through monetization, government is planning to bring the National Monetization Pipeline for the next. So the previous NMP tenure was till 24-25, so which will end on 31st March 2025. So for the next 5 years, government is going to double the value of the previous NMP. So NMP is a way of funding capex. NMP is a way of funding infrastructure, which is not reflected in the budget, which is not reflected in the CFI, because these are mostly PSU's assets. For example, rail. So Indian Railway, there is a PSU called Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited. They have the assets of Eastern Corridor, Western Corridor. Now, if they will monetize, so Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, that PSU will get the money, and then that money will again be spent. It doesn't come in CFI. It will not be reflected in Government of India budget. So, and the previous NMP, which came in 2021, at that time itself, government had clarified that future capital expenditure, future infrastructure building there is going to be a transformative change, and mostly we will be doing capex through NMP. So government will give the constructed projects on lease, on PPP, and the money which it will get, then through that money it will do aggressive infrastructure spending. So that's what is going to happen. So there is going to be a huge expenditure on infrastructure. So NMP proceeds generally do not go to Consolidated Fund of India. And so why I have written generally, if there is a project of PSU, if it will be monetized, it will not go to CFI. But if there is a direct project of Government of India and Government of India gives it to someone, then the money that will come to CFI. That may come to CFI. Going to the next slide. Coming to the revenue expenditure, or let's say tax exemptions. So this budget presented on 1st February 2025, the main highlight of the budget was the rebate that government gave in personal income tax. No one expected, trust me, no one expected that government is going to give such a big bonanza for the individual taxpayers. And in the past maybe 30 years, I have never seen that government has increased the limit on personal income tax to such a higher level, from 7 lakh till to 12 lakh. So what change exactly has happened? See, there are two schemes in personal income tax. One is old regime, the other is new regime. Now old regime is actually, in old regime there were exemptions allowed. In the new regime, that is this one, government wanted to simplify this process, so there is no exemptions. Whatever you earn, you will have to pay tax after certain level, of course. So you cannot claim other exemptions in the new regime. And the government record says that 75% of the people, individual taxpayers, have already shifted to the new tax regime. And by giving this kind of exemption from 7 lakh to 12 lakh, around 90% people will shift. So maybe after 1 or 2 years, government will remove the old regime totally, and this new income tax regime will remain. So in the new income tax regime, if you will see here, see, if anyone is getting 12 lakh annual income, so 1 lakh per month, then they don't need to pay a single rupees tax. Let me just repeat, if anyone is getting rupees 1 lakh per month, means 12 lakh a year, they don't need to pay any tax. Now on top of it, there is a term called standard deduction. Standard deduction, that is also rupees to 75,000 in a year. So that is an added advantage. So all individual taxpayers who earn 12 lakh 75,000 in a year, they don't need to pay any tax, because in the standard deduction is also subtracted from your income. If I am earning 12.75 lakh a year, I don't need to pay any tax. But if I am earning, let's say 30 lakh, 40 lakh, then the rule is between 0 to 4 lakh, I don't need to pay any tax. 4 to 8 lakh, 5%. 8 to 12 lakh, 10%. 12 to 16 lakh, 15%. 16 to 20 lakh, 20%. So this is the slab, and above 24%, 30%. Above 24 lakh, it's 30%. This is a major relief. In the last year, this 25% slab was not there. So this has been a consistent, a very progressive slab in which it has been designed. But don't try to understand that till if your earning is 12.75 lakh, no tax. 25,000 is the standard deduction. It is added separately. So 12 lakh, no tax. But above, if you are earning above 12 lakh, you have to pay this manner. So no tax till 12 lakh. Standard deduction of rupees 75,000 is on top of it. 1 crore more people will not pay tax. So because of this increasing the limit, so in the previous till this year, those people who were earning 7 lakh annually, they were not paying tax. Now it is 12 lakh. Those people who earn 12 lakh, they will not pay tax. So how many people will move out of this tax net? 1 crore more people will not pay tax. So because of this change from 7 lakh to 12 lakh, 1 crore more people will not have to pay tax. And how much revenue government will lose? Rupees 1 lakh because of this change. This is the biggest change in personal income tax which I have seen in the last 30 years. Presently, 75% of people file income tax as per the new tax regime, and expectation is that it will increase it to, because of this massive change, it will increase it to more than 90%. Acha, the limit, acha, this TDS, this is a very important thing for our senior citizens. Let's say ki, if I'm a senior citizen, more than 60 years, and I have kept 1 crore of FD in bank. So I will get, let's say I am getting 1 crore FD if the interest rate is, let's say 7%. Let's say I get 60,000 per month as interest. Now when I get 60,000 interest, the bank deducts TDS, tax deducted at source. So since bank is paying me 60,000 interest per month, so government says that the bank needs to deduct TDS, tax deducted at source 10%. So bank deducts, let's say 60,000 I am getting interest, so bank will deduct 10%, 6,000, and I will get only 54,000. Of course, I will have to file tax return, and if more tax has been deducted, I will get it back. But only earlier, only 50,000 rupees, only 50,000 rupees annually was exempt from TDS. Now, if my annual interest is 1 lakh, if my annual interest is 1 lakh, the banks will not deduct TDS. If my annual interest, sorry, that number I took it quite big, but let's say if I am getting 8,000 rupees interest, 8,000 rupees interest every month, means 96,000 rupees interest a year, banks will not deduct TDS, and I will get the entire interest in my account. Earlier, TDS was exempt till only 50,000 of interest income for senior citizens. Now it has been increased to 1 lakh. One other important thing which has been done is, let's say I have a house and I was getting rental income. So let's say the rental income was 20,000. So it was exempt from TDS. That means if I am getting 20,000 rent, whoever is paying me rent, they don't need to deduct TDS. But if my rental income was 25,000 per month, that means annual rental income becomes 3 lakh. So they will deduct TDS and then they pay rent. So if my rent is 25,000, they will deduct 10%, let's say 2.5 thousand, and then after I will get the rent. So after deduction of tax. Now this has been increased to 6 lakh. So 6 lakh annual, all these tax dealings are done as per the annual calculation. So if my rental income is 50,000, which becomes 6 lakh annually. If my rental income is 50,000, neither the person who is paying me rent, they don't need to deduct TDS. The whole 50,000 I will get in my account. Earlier, they were deducting 10% TDS. So till 50,000 rental income per month, the TDS will not be deducted. And if I am paying rent, then I also don't need to deduct TDS. See, if I am paying rent, so deducting TDS, depositing into government's account, it is also a difficulty for me, compliance burden. So deducting TDS is a compliance burden, and the person whose tax is being deducted, for, of course, it will be calculated in the income tax, but his money is getting basically blocked. So TDS limit for rental income has been increased from annual 2.4 lakh rental income to 6 lakh rental income, that means 50,000 rupees. One more important change has been done in case of household properties. So what has been done? If I have 2 houses, then there is no tax. If I have 2 houses, then there was no tax on in the income of that house, but I need to comply with certain rules and regulations. I had to declare a lot of documents that I am not earning any income on this. But now what government has done, that anyone who is having two houses, they don't need to do anything. It is assumed that a person may have two houses, they may require two houses for their own purpose, and you don't need to pay any tax on that. Tax on rental income. Actually, what earlier used to happen. So, if I have two houses, then it is assumed that one house is on rent, and even if I am not getting rent in my account, I had to pay tax. But now, till two houses, I don't need to pay any tax on rental income. Of course, if I have lent it out, then I will have to pay. But I can have two houses for my own use, and I don't need to pay any tax on the rental income. But if I have actually rented out one of the house, then I will have to pay. But earlier it was assumed that if you have two houses, you are getting some money, so you'll have to pay some tax. So now that is gone, and you don't need to comply with anything. Two houses, you don't need to file any document. It will be assumed that you are using it for your own purpose, and you don't need to pay any tax on that. But of course, if you have rented out one of the house, then you'll have to pay. So this is easing of compliance. Now this personal income tax exemption, which is a great exemption which has been given, the purpose is, as I said to you, that the context of this budget is the urban consumption is slowing down. Most of the salaried person live in urban areas. They were feeling the burden of tax. So government has taken care of that, and to relieve, to increase this urban demand, government has targeted this personal income tax thing. So this relaxation from 7 lakh to 12 lakh is definitely going to boost urban consumption. There is no doubt about it. And if this urban consumption will boost, demand will boost, then automatically it will bring in capex from the private sector. This is going to start this vicious, virtuous cycle of demand and growth. So, till last 5 years, government has done a huge capex. Now, government is expecting that private sector should do capex, but private sector is not that much willing to do capex because there was a little bit of demand slowdown. So, government has tried to address that demand slowdown concern, which was mostly in the urban area, by giving a big relaxation for the income taxpayers, individual income taxpayers. The limit has been increased from 7 to 12 lakh. So, and one reason of giving this relaxation was that personal income tax, the growth in the last few years has been tremendous. Every year, see, personal income tax has seen an annual growth of more than 20% in the last 3 years. So there was a case of increasing the exemption limit to 12 lakhs. So income tax was increasing a lot. The growth in the income tax was the highest among all the taxes. So and that urban demand was slowing down. So government thought of giving relaxations in personal income tax. So even this relaxation has been given, and government will lose that forgo that rupees 1 lakh crore. But still the growth will be above 14-15%. Some people were concerned that are we shifting towards expenditure tax? That means, are we shifting towards expenditure tax? This concern was raised in the context that personal income tax government is giving exemption. So now you will pay less tax, less direct tax to the government, and the money, extra money which you will get because tax has been reduced, with that extra money you will spend. Now when you will spend, government will collect GST from you. So relaxations in personal income tax, it will result in more money in the hands of the public. They will spend more, and then government will collect more GST. So this is not the intent to get more GST. It is just to boost the urban demand of consumption. So next year, direct tax revenue are not going to increase less as compared to GST. So indirect tax revenue is projected to grow just by 8%, but direct taxes is going to grow by 12.7%. So it is not that government is shifting towards expenditure tax. It's just that personal income tax was going at a much higher rate because a large people came in the tax net. So government wanted to give exemption. Trends in tax receipts, and if you can see, Yellow is direct tax and green is indirect tax. Direct tax is increasing percentage wise. And this should be the policy also, because indirect taxes are regressive. It hurts the poor more as compared to rich. So government should collect less indirect taxes, GST, and government should focus more on the direct tax collection, which is as per this graph. Simplification of taxes. So government is trying to bring a new income tax bill. It will come in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And in this income tax bill, of course, this new changes will be there, and the focus is mostly on simplification of filing of taxes. There are a lot of simplification regarding the procedures to file taxes, and there was a lot of complicated language that was used in the previous Income Tax Act. A lot of confusions were there. So government is going to simplify the language, simplify the procedures of filing. So that's why this new income tax bill, because this change which government has done, it can just be done through an amendment, but new income tax bill is going to focus more on simplification of language, simplification of procedures, removal of ambiguities. Customs duty has been rationalized, reduced. So we'll discuss why government has, in this budget, government has rationalized, means government has simplified and reduced. Basically, customs duty has been reduced. Why it has been reduced, on what, we will discuss it. Capital gain tax, there has been no change in capital gains tax, because it was changed in 6 months back in the July budget. So regarding capital gain tax, it's quite simple now. Long-term capital gain tax on shares, equities, and property, it's 12.5%, and short-term capital gain tax, it's 20%. So this has been maintained, and now earlier the capital gain tax on real estate property and shares was different. 10% was on shares and 20% was on real estate. Now it has been made same for both shares and property, real estate basically. Capital gain tax is calculated separately from. One more thing, a lot of people are confused regarding this. See, if I am earning, let's say 50 lakh annually through my job, and by selling shares I earn 5 lakh. Then so 50 lakh from income salary and 5 lakh from shares, selling shares. These two sources of income are treated totally separately. The income which I get through capital gain, that is not added in the personal income. That is not added in the personal income for calculation of taxes. So the slab that we saw, that is for the salary, the normal income, and for capital gain tax, the capital gain is treated separately, and there is a flat rate of 20% for short term and 12.5%. So don't mix the capital gain into the personal income. They are totally separate. Now this budget has budget has proposed to do a lot of things, and until unless those things are implemented, the full details are not available. For example, this year's budget, the focus, there are 4 more engines of growth, as has been highlighted. So for the next few years, the government is going to focus on these 4 engines of growth. So government thinks that these 4 sectors will drive the economic growth: agriculture, MSMEs, investment, and exports. Now, certain schemes which government has announced, the details are not very much clear. So we'll briefly discuss that, because a lot of things government initially just outlines, but the details will come once that scheme or that proposal is implemented actually in the economy. So we'll cover this briefly. So engines of growth, the first, this budget, literally there is a very aggressive spending on agriculture, and there is a lot of reforms for MSMEs and exports also. So let us see what government plans to do in agriculture. PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, Developing Agri Districts Program. So government is planning to, based on the aspirational districts program performance, government is planning to develop 100 districts Which 100 districts? Which has low productivity of agriculture, moderate crop intensity. Crop intensity means, let's say 1 acre of agricultural land is there, you are growing 2 crops in a year, so 2 by 1 into 100, 200%. If you are growing only 1 crop, so 100%. So moderate crop intensity and below average credit parameters. If the credit taken by the farmers in that district is low. So how government is going to select these 100 districts where crop intensity is moderate, productivity is low and credit is below average. And what government is exactly going to do in those districts? Enhance agricultural productivity. Now, how government is going to enhance agricultural productivity? That we'll see once this program is launched. Adopt crop diversification and sustainable agricultural practices. Augment post-harvest storage. As you know that the major challenge in agriculture exists in the post-harvest storage facilities. And this is going to be done at the panchayat and block level. Improving irrigation facilities. As I told you that crop intensity is mostly dependent on irrigation facility. For example, if area has no irrigation facility, you may grow just 1 crop and the crop intensity will be 100%. If a area is irrigated properly, then you can grow 2-3 crops and the cropping intensity will be 300%. So improving irrigation facilities, then facilitate availability of long-term and short-term credit. Fine. Then the other, so in agriculture is one of the engines of growth and government has planned several schemes. So the other is building rural prosperity and resilience. How government is going to do it? A comprehensive multi-sectoral program will be launched in partnership with states. So what government will exactly do? This will address underemployment in agriculture. As you know that agriculture we have huge underemployment, disguised unemployment through skilling in. So in this rural prosperity, what exactly government is going to do is government is going to provide skilling, technology, innovation to the rural youth so that they have certain other source of income. They should be able to do something else also in the rural area other than the agriculture also. Of course, agriculture plus post-harvest or processing things, but there should be some other source of income for the rural people also. The goal is to generate ample opportunities in rural areas. So ample opportunities in rural areas, not specifically in agriculture, but in supporting activities like maybe food processing, cold storage, so that migration is an option but not a necessity, because right now agriculture, non-farm areas have less job opportunities. The program will focus on rural women, young farmers, rural youth, marginal and small farmers and landless families. Atmanirbharta in pulses. As you know that pulses, we have increased the production of pulses, but still to a certain extent we import. So a 6-year mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses will be launched. So what exactly government will do in this? See, as you know that we are surplus in rice and wheat. One of the major reasons is that government does MSP program. So here, to increase the production of pulses, what government is doing? Central agencies of government, NAFED is National Agriculture Marketing Federation of India and National Consumer Cooperative Federation. These two agencies will procure the pulses from the farmers for the next 4 years under Atmanirbharta in pulses. So this will motivate farmers to grow, to shift to pulses also. Comprehensive program for vegetables and fruits. So what government will do in this? This program will promote production, efficient supplies, because there are issues in the supply chain of fruits and vegetables. Processing, of course, this will result in making the products available all around the year, and remunerative prices for farmers will be launched in partnership with the states. Now, how this is going to be launched, it is not yet clear, but let's see how it happens. And this here, the FPOs and cooperatives are going to play a major role. FPOs may support small and marginal farmers in procurement and providing inputs, and cooperatives too. Makhana board in Bihar. So India is one of the leading exporters of makhana, and Bihar is produces 80 to 90% of the makhana. So government is planning to set up a makhana board in Bihar, and the people will be engaged through FPOs. So FPOs are emerging a major mechanism to support small farmers, and there is a lot of focus of government on FPOs. So various agri schemes that you will be seeing, it is involving FPOs to support farmers. The board will provide hand-holding and training support to makhana farmers, and will also work to ensure they receive benefits of relevant government schemes. National Mission on High Yielding Seeds. So National Mission on High Yielding Seeds will be launched, aiming at basically research ecosystem and development and propagation of seeds with high yield pest resistance. So government will be focusing here mostly on research, because it is said that because of lack of research, we have not been able to launch high yielding seeds. Then fisheries. So India ranks second largest globally in fish production, and we export a lot also. In agriculture, the fishery exports comes at approx 4th rank. So we are a major exporter of fisheries also. To unlock the tapped potential of the maritime sector, government will bring in an enabling framework for sustainable harnessing of fisheries from Indian exclusive zones. So major focus is on exclusive economic zones, 200 nautical miles from the seashore, with a special focus on Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. So here there will be major focus on fisheries and high seas also. Then mission for cotton productivity. In the last few years, actually cotton, the yield to a certain extent is stagnating. So government has launched this mission for cotton productivity for the benefit of lakhs of cotton growing farmers. Mission, this will be a 5-year mission, will facilitate improvements in, as I said, that the productivity is stagnating, and sustainability of cotton farming and promote extra long staple cotton varieties. So government will be focusing through science, technology and research. Enhanced credit through KCC, a very important change. See, Kisan Credit Card, farmers take loan. Loan is available for short term also and long term also. Now, and the terms and conditions are different for short term loans and long term loans. Now, for short term agri loans, like post harvest activities to purchase seeds or something, for short term loan through KCC, government provides interest subsidy through interest subvention scheme. Listen carefully. So till now, the government was, so how does government provide subsidy? First, let me explain that. It is assumed that the benchmark interest rate is 9%. Benchmark market, benchmark interest rate, just a normal interest rate at which farmers get loan is 9%. Now, under this interest subvention scheme, government gives interest subsidy. This is the standard rate in the market. Interest subsidy, government gives interest subsidy of 2% for short term loans if you take through KCC, and on timely payment, an additional subsidy of 3% is given. So the total subsidy becomes 5%. So 9% is the general interest, government is giving 5% subsidy. So effective short term loan to KCC for farmers is at 4%. But how much loan you can take? That limit has been increased from rupees 3 lakh to rupees 5 lakh. So around 70% increase. So on short term loans taken through KCC, the limit earlier was 3 lakh, now it has been increased to 5 lakh. So till 5 lakh loan, you can get interest subsidy of around 5%. Effectively, you can get loan at 4%. 5 lakh loans at 4% through Kisan Credit Card under modified interest subvention scheme. Next, engines of growth agriculture में the last point is India Post, India Post Office. India Post, government is going to use the extensive network of India Post to improve the rural connect. Now, what government is going to do? Government is going to use the infrastructure facilities of this India Post for rural connect, and in this what will come? DBT, cash out and EMI pickup, credit services, various credit services for microprocessing, micro enterprises will be given through India Post, insurance facilities, rural community and institute. So government is going to use this India Post institution for a very strong connect for the rural sector, for DBT, for insurance, for credit, giving credit and providing any other information. So we had 4 engines of growth. First was agriculture, second is MSMEs. So a very important thing which government has done is government has revised the limit of investment and turnover both. So investment limit, earlier an enterprise will be considered as micro, small or medium if the investment was 110 or 50 or turnover was 550 and 250. Now investment limit has been increased by 2.5 times and turnover limit has been increased by 2 times. So micro enterprises के लिए investment limit has been increased from 1 to 2.5, 10 to 25, 50 to 125. Now, so how it will impact? Now a lot many more enterprises will come under MSMEs and they will be able to achieve, they will be able to access a lot of benefits regarding credit guarantee and various other Udyam schemes to government. So a lot of many more MSMEs are going to get included here under this definition. Because MSMEs get they get credit facility, then credit facility they get, plus they get credit guarantee also. Then in export, if MSMEs 45% of the exports is done by MSMEs, so MSMEs have relaxations through this Exim Bank also in export facilities in interest. So a lot of other enterprises are going to be part of this MSMEs and they are going to achieve these benefits. Significant enhancement of credit availability with guarantee cover. So guarantee cover has been increased from 5 to 10 for micro and small enterprises and for startups. So this is guarantee cover. So when these enterprises take loan, government gives guarantee through a guarantee fund. Micro, small and medium enterprises, there is a trust which government has established for MSMEs which gives guarantee from the government side. So guarantee cover has been increased. So till 5 crore of loan, earlier the guarantee cover was only till 5 crore of loan, now it has been increased to 10. For startups, it has been increased to 20. And those MSMEs which are involved into export, term loans up to 20 crore will be, the guarantee will be there till 20 crore of loan. And one more thing, credit card for micro enterprises. Government will introduce customized credit cards. So like Kisan, we have Kisan credit cards. In the same way, we will have customized credit cards for micro enterprises. So micro, small, medium. In this, only micro will be government will be providing credit cards till with rupees 5 lakh of limit. So micro enterprises can use these cards to avail funds till rupees 5 lakhs. MSMEs manufacture. So government, as I said that second quarter manufacturing has slowed a little bit and there is a very aggressive focus of government on manufacturing. So government is planning to launch manufacturing mission. So it's been 10 years, more than 10 years, government launched Make in India. To further give it a fillip, government is launching manufacturing mission, which is going to cover all small, medium and large enterprises for furthering Make India by providing. So what government will do? Provide now policy support. Now what kind of policy support, that will come to know in future. Execution roadmaps, governance and monitoring framework for central ministries and states. So a manufacturing mission will be launched, which will be next step for Make in India. Let's see how government is going to, because broader things are here. Government will be providing policy supports. Government, if there is some execution blockade, then government will be supporting in that. But how exactly it will be done, we will come to know once this comes. Then MSMEs, government. See, we are a labor surplus nation, we have huge labor, and to promote labor-based industries, government has launched several schemes. 3-4 most labor-intensive sectors are garments, footwear, food processing, toy sector. Now garments, we have already, government has launched 7 mega textile parks. So now the other sectors like footwear, toy and food processing. For example, like toy sector. Earlier, mostly toys were importing. 10 years back, most of the toys were importing. Now, we have become self-sufficient. India's toy export has increased in the last 2-3 years. It has increased by more than 100%. So, government is going to give further boost to the toy industry in Make India a global hub for toys. Make India a global hub for toys. The scheme will focus on development of clusters, cluster model agglomeration of economies, and manufacturing ecosystem that will create high quality, unique, innovative and sustainable toys. Footwear, the scheme will support designing. Achha, this footwear is mostly non-leather, component manufacturing and machinery. Machinery required for. So, government may facilitate the import of machinery also for production of non-leather quality footwear besides the support for. So, leather footwear also support will be given, but the more focus will be on non-leather footwear. Food processing, government will establish a National Institute of Food Processing in Bihar. The institute will provide a strong fillip to food processing activities in the entire eastern region. So, there is a major, on MSMEs, there is a major focus on labor intensive sectors like food processing, toys and footwear. Export promotion mission, this mission will also be launched. Achha, this is the third engine of growth. So, first was agriculture, second was MSMEs and third is export. So, export promotion mission will be launched. Government will set up an export promotion mission with sectoral and ministerial target. So, every sector will be given task. So, which sector has to increase exports by how much and which ministry, whatever products that come into that ministry. So, sectoral and ministerial targets both will be there. Because see, export promotion mission or any other scheme, what's the difference? Let's say we would have said that a scheme for exports, but rather than that we have said export promotion mission. So, in a mission, those schemes which are launched in the form of mission, there is a targeted objective, there is a targeted plan how to achieve that. So, in a mission mode, there is a plan. So, we have to increase exports. In a mission mode, we are going to launch a export promotion mission to achieve the targets, and that's why it says the sectoral and ministerial targets will be given. Driven jointly by the Ministry of, so 3 ministries will be involved: Commerce, MSMEs and Finance. It will facilitate easy access to export credit, of course, export credit, cross-border factoring support. Cross-border factoring support means, let's say an MSME has exported its product, but it has not got payment, it has bill. It has bill. Now, this bill, the MSME can sell it to a third party for short-term credit, and the third party will then try to recover the money. This is called factoring. And support to MSMEs to tackle non-tariff measures in overseas. Non-tariff measures, for example, if an MSME exported some product to, let's say, European Union, because of their quality or certain other parameters, they stopped that. They didn't allow that product to enter into it. So, this is a non-tariff barrier. They can put a customs duty, non-tariff barrier, quality-related restrictions or labor-related restrictions. They may say that in the production of the items, child labor was involved. So, these are non-tariff barriers. So, government will facilitate this issue also. Now, this government will try to tackle this issue also to promote more exports, because MSMEs contribute 45% of India's merchandise exports. That's the reason that government is focusing on exports, and mostly in that exports there is a focus on MSMEs. Then to promote exports, we have 2-3 other programs. BharatNet, a digital public infrastructure, like we have UPI for payments. In the same way, we will have a digital public infrastructure for international trade. Will be set up as unified platform for trade documentation and financing. See, in trade, a lot of documentation formalities are required and there are financing needs. So, for all this, there will be a new kind of UPI for this. So, a digital public infrastructure for trade launch. This was the need of the hour. A lot of entrepreneurs were saying about this, that we require a UPI kind of thing for exports, for financing mostly, and a lot of formalities that is required through paper. Now it will be resolved through on this UPI platform, UPI kind of platform. National framework for GCC. GCC is Global Capability Centers. There are a lot of companies which are establishing global capability centers in India. What are global capability centers? They are basically centers which manage the global operations of MNCs. These are basically the centers which manage the handle the global operations of MNCs like Amazon. So Amazon, it is all across the country, it is an MNC. It has a GCC in India where a lot of tech savvy design people sit here. They do data analytics. And they try to handle the global operations like what kind of trade or what kind of goods is being required in certain countries. So all these analysis related things, design related things, because see, if a company has global operations, there must be one place where all this operation management is going to be kept. Or let's say there is a company which sells the phone all over the world, but the design center will have to be in one country. So global capability centers are basically centers which manages the global operations of the MNCs, where there is more focus on technology, innovation, and high tech activities there, and data analytic related things and design related things are being done. And India is coming up fast in GCCs. A lot of companies are setting up GCCs in India. So government is going to, and this whatever task they do, let's say operation related management they are doing, so they are providing services to the MNCs. So this is a part of services. So this work, if it is being exported, it comes under services. So guidance to states for promoting global capability centers, India is emerging as a fast hub for global capability centers for various MNCs. Warehousing facility for air cargo, lightweight cargo which requires fast shipment, it is transported through flights also, which is called air cargo. So government is going to set up warehousing facility for air cargo to promote perishable products exports, like perishable horticulture produce. The government has decided to rationalize tariff structure and address duty inversion. These will support domestic manufacturing and value addition, promote exports and facilitate trade and provide relief to commerce. See, in this budget, what government has done? See, duty we call customs duty. Why not customs tax? Because customs duty means it's different for different products. So till now we had around 15 different types of tariffs, 15 different rates of tariff, 15 different rates on customs. So on certain products it may be 0%, on certain products it may be 2%, 5%. So it had 15 different layers of structure. Now what government has done? Government has removed 7 tariff rates, leaving behind only 8 remaining tariff rates including 0. So now we will have only 8 tariff rates including 0. I will come to this point. And government has decided not to levy more than one cess or surcharge. For example, if there is a customs duty, on top of customs duty, there are several cess or surcharge are levied, so it becomes complicated and duty increases more. So now government is saying that there will be only one cess or surcharge levied on a normal customs duty. So that will reduce the duty also, and it will reduce the complexity also, because there is a normal customs duty, on then cess is being imposed, on then surcharge is being imposed, so it increases the effective duty rate. So government has said that either it will be cess or surcharge, there will be only one that will be levied. Achha, first point what it says is, to promote manufacturing in India, to promote more value addition, government has rationalized the tariff, government has reduced the tariff. So if, let's say for example electronics, if till now in electronics, mobile phone, we are doing mostly assemblies, but assembly mein value addition is less, let's say 15%. Now we want to move towards more value added products manufacturing, like component manufacturing. So component manufacturing, the value addition is 25 to 30%. So to make India component manufacturing, whatever raw materials are required, government has reduced the tariff on that, so that companies can import those raw materials and can become a hub of global component manufacturing. So to support local manufacturing, government has rationalized the tariff, government has reduced the tariff. Achha, last engine of growth, investment. So again I am repeating, government is focusing on 4 engines of growth: agriculture, then MSMEs, then export, and then the last is investment. So here there is a lot of focus in this budget. I have seen that in investment, don't think of that only physical investment, capital expenditure related things. There's a lot of focus on investment on people, investment on human capital. So, Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan Abhiyan for improving nutrition, expansion of capacity in IITs, daycare centers in all district, daycare cancer center, because cancer is becoming a major problem. The number of people affected through cancer are increasing. So in every district hospitals, government will be establishing a daycare cancer center. Bharatiya Bhasha Pustak. So there is a lot of focus on government on investment in human capital skilling, like National Center of Excellence for Skilling will be set up. So these are Center of Excellence for Artificial Intelligence, also Atal Tinkering Labs, 50,000 labs to be set up. So we already have Atal Tinkering Labs. Now government is saying that 50,000 Atal Tinkering Labs will be set up in government schools in the next 5 years. So there is a focus on artificial intelligence, broadband connectivity, right? So major emphasis is on investment on human capital. Then, as we have already discussed, government gives grants. Government is giving loan, 1.5 lakh crore of loan, interest-free loan to states if they spend into capital expenditure. Interest-free loan, government is giving 1.5 crore loan in the next budget. It was also there in the previous budget. Then Jal Jeevan Mission, achieve 100% coverage. States borrow as per their FRBM limit, but government has said that they can borrow extra 0.5% if they introduce reforms in the power distribution sectors, because there is a major challenge in the distribution of electricity. Asset monetization, we have already talked, government will double. So 10 lakh crore of projects is going to be monetized. Then urban challenge fund, a fund will, because see, government wants to make these cities, urban centers as a driver of growth. So urban challenge fund will be launched. But this will be in the challenge mode, that only those centers will get funds who will be able to manage the other. So some funds government will give, and the other funds they have to manage through by issuing bonds or by borrowing or raising capital from the market for the various projects of development and sanitation. Financial sector reforms. So Grameen Credit Score Framework to serve the credit needs of self-help groups. They find it difficulty in taking credit because banks are not willing to give. So a Grameen Credit Score will be launched for self-help group members. Then NABFID, National Bank for Financing Infrastructure Development, will set up a partial credit enhancement facility for corporate bonds for infrastructure. So to deepen the corporate bonds, they will set up a credit enhancement facility. Rationalization requirements of procedures for speedy approval of they see, since business activity is growing, a lot of company mergers and acquisitions are happening, which is taking a long time. So government will improve the process so that these mergers acquisitions can happen in a short time. And government has increased the FDI limit on insurance from earlier 74% to 100%. So that's a major boost for the insurance sector. Actually, the insurance penetration in India was quite low, and to increase this, we require foreign capital. So that's why government has increased it. Tax reforms, we have already discussed, new income tax bill will come. And to drive growth, the economic survey also suggested that we should bring certain regulatory reforms. And in India, see, of course, there are a lot of procedures, but these are ambiguous and complicated. So government, as per the session of economic survey, government will constitute a high-level committee for regulatory reforms. The compliance thing, the procedure thing, government wants to simplify it. And you will see that government has done this in the past also. But there is going to be aggressive focus on regulatory reforms in the coming years, because this term has been used several times in the government, in the budget which was presented by your finance minister. So there is a major focus on regulatory reforms, non-financial reforms also, like labor laws. So there are a lot of procedures, compliance burden which hurts MSMEs. So this process will be improved, compliance burden will be less for the companies. For example, Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0 will decriminalize more than 100 provisions in various laws. So criminal provisions will be decriminalized in 100 provisions in various labor laws. So these reforms, now how it will happen, we have to see in future. Deficit trends, we have already discussed that government is on a fiscal consolidation path. So each fiscal Fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective and primary, all the deficits, if you will see, in the last 4-5 years, it has reduced. Just have a look. If you will see, what needs to be seen is that, see, we have 3 important taxes: GST, corporate tax, personal income tax. The maximum is personal income tax. Then we have GST. Then we have corporate tax. So this order you should know. Highest is income tax, then GST, then corporate tax. Securities transaction tax is also included here, so that's why it's looking high. Otherwise, it would have been around 20%. And the maximum receipt comes from borrowing, because tax is receipt and this is non-tax borrowing receipt. So maximum is borrowing, but in terms of tax, personal income tax, then GST, then corporate tax. And rupee goes to, maximum goes in, if you'll see, of course, states share as per the finance commission is fine, that is within our country, but interest payments is the maximum expenditure of government. This needs to be reduced, and that's why government is focusing on the path of fiscal consolidation. Government has said that right now the debt is around 57% of GDP, central debt. Government is planning to bring it to mid-40s by 2031. This is a general expenditure of major items. So that's all for the budget. And as a UPSC aspirant, I will tell you that just have a general look on budget. No need to worry too much about it, because a majority of the things in the budget, until it is implemented, you will not be asked. So focus on what has happened in the economy, not what is yet to happen. Of course, those students who are giving interview, for them, they should analyze the budget properly. But otherwise, those students who are going to appear in prelims or mains, you just need to know your syllabus, and in that syllabus, the budget, very few things are relevant in the budget for your syllabus, like tax or these related things. So just focus on that also, no need to worry too much about it. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.